Hey everybody, Aaron here. Welcome back to another anime review. Today we look at Interviews with Monster Girls episode 12, which because this is the last episode, I'm also going to be reviewing the show. Now, I'm telling you right now, guys and girls, I didn't do episodic reviews for this because I had a lot of other stuff on my plate, unfortunately, at the time. And I was like, I don't know if I could work this into my schedule at the same time. So I was like, I really regret doing that though. I'll be honest with you, because for the most part, I watched every single one of these episodes nearly when they came out, for the most part. I'm not saying I was always on time, but I was watching these usually within the day. And I really do regret that I didn't actually do episodic reviews for this. But this is a show that it got passed up. I think it wasn't that it wasn't loved enough. I think by people because of how many shows came out this season, and that's a shame because this is probably one of my favorite things of the season. To be honest with you, this is definitely one of my top three. Um, you know, Tetsuho is Takahashi, excuse me, is actually asked by the girls, Kari and such like that, to go if they can go to the pool. And he has to then kind of supervise it the whole day. And this episode doesn't do very much in terms of like an ending for a season or anything, but it has something very nice where it shows. I think near the end, probably one of the best things is it shows how much these characters have grown in general. Not only just with Takashi himself, but how with Kari, how with the succubus herself. I always forget her name. You have Machi, you have Kusakabe, and Sato. That's her name. Saki Sato. I always forget her name. I think that's always because I confuse her with Sato from from what you call it, Ajin. Anyways, though, but it shows how these characters have really kind of advanced and grown as the show has been going on from the beginning. It's almost to say like a real honest to god show that's a slice of life, even though it's not a slice of life, which is weird because really it's more so meant to be comedy. And I don't know, I don't know if I agree with the terminology of harem. Like people put this show in a harem genre, and I'm like, I understand where they're going with that because some of the characters, clearly are flirting with Takahashi. But as Takahashi says in this episode, that if one of the girls ever said that they loved him, and it wasn't the teacher, because Sato actually really does care for Takahashi. But if other students came up to him and asked him, if he loved them back, he said that he couldn't, show that same type of love because he cares about them as students and he cares about them as kids, not as anything beyond that. And I'm like, yeah, so that's a perfect example of what this show is trying to do. It's not trying to be creepy. I mean, I know there was actually several episodes focusing on the fact that, what if Takahashi was getting a little too personal, too close with these girls, but they never ever make it so it's like creepy or weird. They just make it like a teacher actually paying close attention to students and taking care of them. And I really enjoy that about the show because it works on a whole level of both being emotional and also works comedy because of course he has to be protecting against the concepts of anything being too weird against them. Like for example when they hug him all the time and stuff like that. He puts a kind of kibosh on that where he doesn't allow them to constantly hug him just because it is kind of weird. But at the same time, he's not afraid to do it because hey, listen, he's like, you're my students. I don't see you in anything but as that, as students. And I've always thought that that's really kind of odd that this show's put into a harem concept because that's just that type of love. This is not that type of love or romance or anything like that. The only one that actually tries to make moves on Takahashi realistically is Sato. I mean, she tries to make some serious waves against them, and I even like that you even mentioned this episode where it's like, why are there no waves forming at this pool? Because she's trying to say like there's no waves in her relationship forming with them. By the way, the whole fact that she like flashed her swimsuit in front of his face, and he was trying so hard not to get hit by the aphrodisiac effect. I was like, wow, that was so funny to me. Honestly, this whole show has been a pleasure to watch. I've really enjoyed every single episode for the most part. I don't think there was any episodes I didn't enjoy, to be honest with you. And it's rare that I could feel that from a show like this because it's, animation wise, I'll say probably the weakest thing about Interviews with Monster Girls, and probably one thing that I wish A1 Pictures would have did a little better with it, was I wish they would have given it a little different of a style. But it's not that, the manga is the same way, so it's like I'm not really expecting per se the style to be super great looking and all that. But I feel like the animation and quality of how the characters look and stuff like that is a little bit perspective. You're not gonna think it's like the best looking thing in the world. I mean, it fits with the characters if you really think about it, but at the same time, like, I really, me personally, am not a fan of it, to be honest with you. That's the bottom line to it. Doesn't mean that it's bad for everyone else. No, some people have no issue with that. I feel like that's probably the weakest thing if I had to actually nitpick anything about the show because everything else besides that, the music's fine. It works really well for the whole show in general. It's not, it's not something you're gonna sit down and listen to like nonstop, on a train ride or something like that. No, it's something you listen to with the opening of the show because it fits the mood setting for the show. In terms of story, there's a little bit of story here. It's really more of the advancement of the characters. Takahashi learns as a teacher more about the demis and stuff like that, and the other characters like Kakari, etc. They all learn how to become a little bit more, adult-like in how they handle situations. I do love, by the way, the ending. I forgot to mention the ending of this episode where, she walks up to him. She's going to school, obviously, and she walks up to him and goes, "Do you remember the first time we met? We actually met right here, during." And he goes, "Yeah, it was during where the cherry blossom would fold, etc. Blah blah." And it was so nice because what they did was they did this really touching scene, and he goes, "Yeah, so I need you to do one favor for me, Hikari." And she goes, "What?" "I need you to fill out the tardy form because she was late to class and late to school." And she goes, "No, I can't." And then she goes, "Oh, that reminds me." He goes, "Yeah, stop with that reminds me stuff. Let's just fill out the form." I think that this show worked on such a great level because it's like, wow, it was always so funny to me. I don't know. I'll be honest with you, like, you can't really do very wrong with Interviews with Monster Girls because I don't think it really tries to do anything super out there in terms of anime. Like, it's not trying to break new boundaries and stuff like that. It's just trying to be a funny show with a little bit of a heartwarming message, heartwarming concept, and very interesting characters. That's all it's trying to be. It's not trying to break anything or be the best of the best. And I feel like that is a perfect example of what my score is going to be for this. That's why if I had to review this between an A through an F, I have to give it a solid B+. I feel like that's perfect for the show. B+. I mean, it was I'll tell you right now, it was sometimes close with A-, but it's like I said, it's because it's not trying to break the mold of certain things, and because really like the episode 12 really doesn't end with anything. It's just like a season finale type thing. I can't give it anything higher, to be honest with you, because it's not like it's not gonna be everyone's cup of tea, if that makes sense to you. Anyways, guys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this review. As always, if you did like the review, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, comment, whatever. I will talk to you guys later. Until our paths cross again, next review. Have a very blessed day, everyone. Bye bye.